Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. So today I want to get a little bit serious about something because a lot of times as successful leaders and business owners, our job actually is to anticipate the problems and do something about it before it explodes into something huge. So I want to share today some insights, both from my own experience personally, and then also my experience dealing with my team as well. And things that looking back now, I keep saying, if I had only known then what I know now, looking back now, I should have seen it coming. And it's something that might not be as obvious to everybody, but maybe it is. But it is an early warning sign of bigger problems. And what that is actually working too many hours. I know that sounds nuts, doesn't it? But it's really an indicator of several things. So let's get into it and let's dig into why it's a problem, what it could be indicating, and then most importantly, what you're going to do about it. So I started my career in automotive manufacturing, which if anybody has worked in that, they want to own your time. They want to, you get your cell phone. And I know when I first got my cell phone, I was like, look at me, I'm getting important. Got the calls. I might get called out of a meeting because, that makes me look important because I've got this cell phone now. And maybe that's not everybody, but there was a badge of honor to having an insane number of meetings every day, working 10 hours plus every single day, working over your weekends, working on vacation, calling in and checking in. Like this trickled down as how you succeed, or you're not a good employee and you don't care if you don't do these things. So obviously the culture was that. But what it taught us and what I quickly learned, giving all of my time to my work was the way to succeed. What we didn't talk about is how effective we were at work, but it was just, I've got meetings all day long. If my calendar was full, I must be important. I must be in need. People need to see me and talk to me and hear my input. And what it really was, though, and what all of those unnecessary hours was really a lack of boundaries on my part. So the interesting part about it is that I had no problem giving that kind of time. I was moving around a lot. I was typically in an area where I didn't know anybody. And sad as it was, that was some of my social outlet. And I enjoyed it. And I did enjoy putting in that time. That all kind of stopped when I actually had a family, or I actually started to put roots down and wanted something more out of life. And really what it indicated is that I was struggling with boundaries around time. And the truth is that when we struggle with boundaries in one area, it's very likely we struggle with boundaries in other areas. Where that becomes a problem is that when every line is super fuzzy, it becomes difficult to understand what is mine, what is yours, and where I should be giving feedback, where I should be pushing back, and where really the lines need to get drawn. And that becomes a huge problem as somebody continues to move up the ladder, not just in they're not giving feedback, but also in they're not using their team properly, or they're not developing their team, or the only development they get is teaching them how to put more hours in, which is not what we want anyone to be doing. I saw this in myself, but the truth is I saw it in team members and people that worked for me as well, because this culture that basically said the more hours you work, the better employee you are, the more you care, the more you're going to push to get everything done, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these kind of wrong ideas about what a good team member looks like. There was an employee that I had who struggled very much like me, like just would put all of his time into this work. Like he would be there till 11 o'clock at night sometimes, and it hurt his family. It hurt his well-being overall. And what it started to do is it would develop resentment, because there were people that had really good boundaries and they would get a lot of stuff done in the time that they worked. But because of this behavior of the leadership of must work all these times. And so like the lack of boundaries on team members, the lack of boundaries of time with their leaders, those people that had these lack of boundaries had grown resentful of people that actually had good boundaries around time. And there was a lot of culture mismatch and a lot of fighting, a lot of almost blaming people that wouldn't put their time in, that wouldn't kind of give up their whole life for it, because there was resentment there, and it created anger, it created animosity, and it created a lot of problems amongst the team. And it could have been helped. And so what I want to do is talk through how we can catch this earlier, how we can identify it within ourselves, and how we can identify it within our team members earlier, so that this person doesn't get stretched to the limits and starts lashing out at work to people. This person doesn't start to have family problems, mental health problems, stress, overwork. This complete lack of boundaries can lead to this resentment that impacts so much more than just the workplace culture. It impacts life. And that is not okay. We don't live to work in our workplace. The Lord may want us to work and wants us to work in general, but not at the expense of our first vocation, which is life and family. That being said, let's get into it. So let me first start with explaining what boundaries are, because there is a lot of confusion sometimes around boundaries. So it's very helpful to think of the analogy of physical boundaries. So think about your home. You may have a fence around your yard, right? That is a boundary. And there are some people that are outside the fence people. So you may talk to them over the fence, but they don't come in the fence. So that's a boundary. And that's perfectly fine to have that boundary. But if those outside the fence people then either hopped over your fence or walked through the gate of your boundary or opened the gate themselves of your boundary, you might feel very uncomfortable, right? And the next physical boundary might even be like front yard, backyard. Like maybe there's backyard boundary people that, come on in, we're going to have a barbecue together. That's a little bit more intimate, right? And there can be a little bit bigger risk to you to allowing somebody into that part of your life. The next boundary would be coming in the front door, right? Only some people get to come in, whereas others, if they come to your door, you might leave it a little bit cracked, or your area, you might leave the chain even locked while you're talking to them. You might come outside to speak to them because you're protecting that boundary of your home. And again, if those people were to barge in, that would be cause for alarm. And, you can even go so far as to talk about, upstairs boundaries, that kind of thing. Like people, only the most intimate of people are getting free reign of your home. And the same thing needs to be there for non-physical boundaries. So these would be how much you let people's words affect you, how much you let people not dictate your time, but how much people take of your time, put your time, how much work you do at work. Okay. So because these aren't as clear to see, like, obviously a fence and a door, those are very clear physical boundaries. These mental boundaries, these proverbial boundaries, I guess you could say figurative boundaries, they're much harder to see. So it can be very helpful to think about backpacks, right? Our responsibilities in life go into our backpack versus somebody else's responsibilities go into their backpack. And when we take somebody else's responsibility, it's like us being weighed down from all their stuff that's in now our backpack. So some helpful things in a workplace that can be helpful in defining these are clear roles and responsibilities on the team. A lot of people have job descriptions, but typically those are purposely vague. But what you can do is you can use those as to help identify specific roles and buckets, but as a team, define what those buckets really mean. So clarifying it, making sure that this is mine, I own it. Yes, the whole team has input or is involved, but I am the owner of it. And the one thing I like to remind people when we do talk about this sort of thing is that when everybody owns it, nobody owns it. So everything needs one owner. not this one or this one, not two, because if I think they're doing it and they think I'm doing it, then probably nobody's doing it. And then nobody gets feedback on it because everyone's waiting for the other one to do it. Maybe there's animosity driven because that person's never doing it. I'm always the one who does it and they never do it. Or maybe it's not important because nobody's following up with me. And so I guess I don't have to do it anymore. A lot of confusion happens, frustration happens, unknown things happen when we start to have these unclear, very fuzzy lines between roles and responsibilities. So clarifying that is the first thing that you can do to help your team or to help yourself, and understanding what you own, whether you're a team member or the leader, what you own and what your team members own. So let's break this down just a little bit. So when we talk about what you own as the leader versus what your team owns, you do have to talk about those results. As the leader, if one of your team members is not meeting their deadlines, is not doing what they need to do, it is their responsibility to do that thing. So their consequences of not doing that thing are on you. So yes, you might end up looking bad to some people, which is why you need to be giving feedback, having check-in points to make sure things are met, but clearly keeping the responsibility of doing that thing within that team member's spot. If you find yourself constantly taking it back on and doing it yourself because they're not doing it, you probably have a weak boundary around where your role ends and who gets to who really is holding the outcome of this. So as the leader, as hard as it may be, if your team member isn't doing it, you need to be giving them this feedback. You need to be finding out why they're not doing it, and you need to be holding them accountable for it. You can help them do it, but that help needs to be under the guides of training them to do it, not in just taking that responsibility onto yourself, because your backpack is going to get very heavy. And in all reality, your backpack is heavy as a leader because you've got a lot of people doing a lot of things. You've got some stresses that you're having to carry that are probably a little more than every other team member. So you do need to be weary of not taking everything on. Keeping these boundary lines of who owns what roles is the very first thing that you could be doing as this leader, or as a team member, clarifying with your boss. If you don't know what roles are yours and what roles are your teammates and what roles are the leaders, because maybe that leader's taking things from you that you don't need them to take from you, but you just haven't been trained well. So there's lots of issues that come up. What I want you to kind of see is that this lack of boundaries and this notion of taking on too many things in other people's backpack contents into your own backpack, that this has big consequences. And what will happen is that your backpack's going to get overfull and it's going to get weighted down. And, the weight isn't necessarily physical, but the weight of stress can have the same impact on your body as the weight of physical exertion, right? What does that mean? That means your body is drained. That means your muscles get weaker because they're overtaxed, and your literal muscles do. I tell this story a lot when I'm some kind of training about stress, but I used to do a lot of long distance running. And I remember running one day and I was talking with the leader of our run group, and I was like, I don't know why, but I am so tired. I feel like I've just come off a long run, even though I'm literally just starting the long run. And I even had a rest day right before it. And I'm physically exhausted trying to do this run. And she and I got discussing about how much the stress of my workplace was actually draining all of my muscles, because your body does the same things. So whether you're being chased after by a tiger back in the caveman world days, our stresses were physical. They were to, being chased by a tiger or having to fight, the lion that wants to come and get your sheep, right? It was physical. And our bodies still respond to stress physically. So it shoots all of the energy into our legs and arms, and it feeds them with extra sugar so that we have the energy and the muscle to feed our muscles to deal with that. And then our bodies go and try to heal. So when the stress goes away, our body shoots out the cortisol to try to heal everything that just got damaged through that physical exertion. The issue is when it's not physical exertion, it is mental exertion. So we didn't actually use our muscles. We didn't burn that extra sugar that got produced in our bodies. And so now we've got a lot of sugar coming around. And then we've got this cortisol coming around at the wrong time of day, because cortisol is meant to come up first thing in the morning to wake us up. So now we got cortisol hitting us at like 5 o'clock when everything seems to blow up, even though I'm trying to go home, right? And now you've got all of this stress and this spike in cortisol keeping you awake. And guess what you can't do? You can't go back to bed. You can't go to bed. Or it hits you at this weird time at 3 a.m. and wakes you up, and now you can't go back to sleep. So now you're tired. You've got extra sugar in your body. You've got no sleep. You're not recovering, and your body is just in this horrible mishmash of everything. So what do? You drink more coffee, which the caffeine shoots more cortisol, gets more messed up with your whole hormone system. So all of that is happening when we start taking on too much responsibility, because we're causing so much stress in our lives. Some other things that we might see because we have unclear boundaries is not only are we extra stressed, right? We're also getting kind of angry at people. So we might even actually struggle to see what's mine and what's theirs for giving feedback. So now, not only are we taking on too much, but we're actually blaming ourselves for what our team member isn't doing. Because maybe we're saying, you know what, I didn't teach them how to do it. So my fault, I better take it on and get it done. Or, you know what, I assigned it too late. My fault, I'm going to take it on and get it done. So you're not giving feedback, and now you're taking the work away. Not good. And what that might lead to is just not even delegating at all, because either you just find it's just easier to do it yourself, or you can't even see where the end of your responsibilities lie. And so you just hang on to everything, because everything is ultimately your job anyway. So you might as well make sure it gets done. Now you don't have to tell someone else to do it and wait for them to get it done. You can just do it yourself, and it's your responsibility anyway. And wow, my backpack is heavy. Why might this all be a problem? So as I mentioned, stress, huge amounts of stress, resentment and anger. So you might start to resent your team, or you might start to resent your other team members who are going home to have dinner with their families while you're sitting there doing the thing that maybe is theirs, but maybe is mine, but why aren't they ever staying late? Which then leads to culture problems. So, when people hold on to a lot of resentment, hold on to a lot of extra stress, they're going to snap faster. They might yell. They might just cause problems and start blaming people and causing huge rifts within the team, which then now this person who's never home, they have family stress now because they haven't been home. They've got issues outside of work that might be coming up, which is then going to impact their ability to focus at work. And my goodness gracious, there are a lot of issues, because it might even indicate that they just have a hard time prioritizing everything. So what do you do? What do you do when you see somebody who's just starting down this path, who is just working a lot of hours? So I know a lot of us don't want to rock the boat. If it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? But working too many hours is an indication of something is broken, because no job should take 80 hours a week, and no one should be caught holding the bag at the end of the day. If your team is working well together, no one's caught holding the bag, because the team is responsible in its own way. We will support one another. And yes, ultimately someone is responsible, but they don't feel alone in it. So it's a difference between responsibility and I'm alone, and responsibility and there's someone here who is supporting me through this, or helping me do it better, because maybe I just don't know how to do it right, or maybe I accidentally kept it on too long or held on to too much, and now you're going to help me get through it, and then we're going to fix it and problem solve it afterwards. So supporting one another, not doing it for each other. So what do? Discuss the work hours. Say, hey, I notice you work like 10 and 12-hour days every single day. What's leading you to do that? And what you might find is a lot of things. You might find that they feel they've taken on or they've got too many things to do. You might find that they have a hard time prioritizing. You might find that, they're getting distracted in ways. So you can help them with that. Because again, if they have no boundaries on their time, they're probably struggling with boundaries and prioritization in other areas. And then you can start to set goals about when you leave work. And the most important thing to do when you set these goals is to hold them accountable for them. Say, hey, I saw you leaving really late again, or I know you're leaving really late again because of XYZ, because maybe you're not there still. But set these goals, but then hold them accountable for it because they need that. They need that from you. Ultimately, it means they're not getting their work done in the day-to-day sense. So it's kind of a work performance thing, even though it might seem wonderful that they're working so many hours. We do that through showing empathy, saying, hey, empathy and really appreciation, giving recognition, like, I love your dedication. I don't want you to burn out. So let's talk about what's causing you to have to stay this long. What's causing you to not get it done? Start attacking those things one at a time. You pluck them out, you get rid of them. So what you're going to get if you do all these things, you're going to get more productive team members, more productive employees. They're going to learn about boundaries. They're going to learn that, hey, I need to block off this time and say no to some things because my yes to everything is really an overall no to a lot of things that are actually probably more important. Me saying yes to everything is not good, right? They're going to have a better home life. You've heard the happy wife, happy life. Well, happy home life, happy employee. I don't know. That doesn't rhyme, but it works. It still fits, right? If you have a happy home life and the work culture is supportive of that, then everyone will be happier and work better, work harder, work better together. And really, you've got people that are refreshed. They're ready to take the work on. And when, the proverbial, what hits the fan, they'll be ready and refreshed enough and willing enough to put in the extra effort when it's needed. It does have to stop at some point, and we have to set boundaries around that too. What we want is we want this better culture. We want people to feel supported, and we can help them the best by helping them see that their lack of boundaries in their time, in their work time, is going to hurt them in the long run, even if they don't see it now. If you yourself are the leader, you're struggling with boundaries, you're struggling with how many hours you're putting in the work or not knowing who to delegate to, how to delegate, any of that, reach out to me. I've personally struggled with it. I have some skills for you to learn and some support in behavior change to help you do that and to help you put it into place that will help you. It will help you, they'll help your team, and they'll help your business. So reach out, grab one of my free calls, because that is honestly, like, we can diagnose this and get you on the right path just today. So let's reach out and let's get everybody working better, working well together, and doing what we were designed to do. So again, if you know somebody who's struggling with this, share this episode, like it, leave a review, and share the message with a friend. Well, I'll remember those someday. All right. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.